Welcome to the Intrazone, a show about the Microsoft 365 Intelligent Intranet. I'm Mark Cashman, here with my co-host, Chris McNulty.
Thanks, Mark. Today, we're kicking off a new series on the Intrazone. At Microsoft, our mission is to deliver solutions to help individuals and organizations achieve more. We can't do that alone. Each month, we'll be sitting down with one of our partners who deliver solutions and services to help our customers do more.
On today's episode, we're talking with Ron Cameron, CEO of KnowledgeLake. KnowledgeLake has millions of users across the world. They're based in St. Louis. They help clients with transactional content management. They automate your content, processes to achieve compliance, governance, and all streamlined on top of the Microsoft platform.
You know, Mark, we've really been excited about being able to be engaged with our partners and things like the Content Services Partner Program. KnowledgeLake has been a charter member since day one of that program, and I thought it made a lot of sense to introduce this new series, to introduce them. But also, we like to have multiple guests on the show. Ron is a fascinating personality. He's a serial entrepreneur. He loves to find obscure and great restaurants in cities where we're going, and he's just a wonderful person to be around, and I couldn't think of a better person to introduce to you for our first Partner Series episode.
I can't wait to talk with Ron. I've known him a little bit from afar. I know certainly a little bit about the company. Before we get into the specifics of talking to Ron, can you tell us a little bit more about your Content Services Program? What is that? Who is in it, generically speaking, and what are some of the things they offer on top of the platform? And then, of course, we're going to ground that in what does KnowledgeLake offer?
Sure thing. So about 2.5 years ago, my colleague Ian Story in engineering, who's been on the Intrazone before.
I believe you all talked very, very casually and comfortably about sports.
It's always a risk, but I'll get right to it today, which would be a first. We realized our customers and our partners were coming to us saying, Microsoft, you have really improved your ECM, your content services offerings. How can we get a better story together about what we're doing with you and vice versa? So we started the program over 2 years ago to bring our partners and our MVPs together to talk about content services, partly so we could give them some guidance about what's our roadmap look like? What are the best ways to deliver solutions to our customers? How are we going out into the marketplace? And to be able to listen to them, listen to their stories, and be able to bring their stories out to the Microsoft field and to our customers. So we get together live twice a year. We just finished up a 2-day event here on the Redmond campus several weeks ago. We had 75 people from 50 different partner organizations coming for a deep dive on all things, from Project Cortex all the way on through to core document management with our good friend of the show, Lincoln Damaris. And it's wonderful to not only watch the way that they connect with us, with partners, and the way that they connect to customers, but watching them connect with each other. You know, there are many well-known partners on the show, and KnowledgeLake is an especially well-known one, but we also want to help our partners achieve more. So being able to figure out that a smaller delivery consultancy, a smaller SI, alongside a really impressive startup software company, watching them come together to be able to do more because they've met each other is really one of the other side benefits of this program.
Well, I know seeing this partnership and the program evolve, both with KnowledgeLake and all the other partners, there's a two-way street and a lot of give and gets. So certainly we're taking advantage of one of the gets today, which is to have Ron on the show. So unless you've got anything further to say about the program or KnowledgeLake specifically, I say we jump in, talk to Ron Cameron, who is the CEO of KnowledgeLake, and hear what he has to say both about your program, about the things they're doing on our platform, and...
There's one more thing. Of course I have to cut you off. There's always one more thing.
Sure.
If you are a partner listening to this and you'd like to get engaged with us, we'll have links to the partner program itself as well as how to sign up and get engaged with us in the show notes.
Just like my favorite Kent DeColvey of the Pirates, you're always pitching.
Hey. Up next, KnowledgeLake, our first guest on the Intrazone Partner Edition. So today, as we're kicking off our series, I want to introduce Ron Cameron, the CEO of KnowledgeLake. Ron, thank you for coming into the Intrazone.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. It's fun to be here.
So, Ron, obviously I've known you for years. It's kind of great to keep an eye on everything that KnowledgeLake has been doing, but I'm kind of curious, like, when you think about your journey with this ecosystem, with KnowledgeLake, how did it all get started? Like, what was your first job before KnowledgeLake?
It's kind of an interesting journey I've had. Serial entrepreneur is my background, so KnowledgeLake's actually my third company, and My journey started in high school with the love of personal computers and writing software in BASIC back in the 80s, and really just formed a love of technology, and that spawned into things that didn't please my dad very much, which was skipping college to become a software developer, and that quickly grew into a need to start a business.
We know some other folks that have skipped some of their schooling to get ahead in the software industry. It sounds like it was a normal thing. So in the 80s, it was just the thing to do?
I guess. And I always think to myself how much easier things would have been if I'd have went and got some more information, went to school. But, hey, you can't think with regrets. Love my journey and love my life. And it's been a great, fun ride.
When you started in the 80s, you said you had 2 previous work lives before
Sure.
KnowledgeLake.
Yep.
How long was each of them?
Probably about 7 years. I spent about 15 years of the first part of my career as a really hardcore dev guy. And that spawned into trying to figure out over and over again how to actually own a business, reading everything I could, trying to put mentors around me. And it took me a while to really get myself figured out. And what the end result was, I realized I'm not made to be a single person business owner. That wasn't me. I needed a partner. And I met that partner in a gentleman named Bob Beltman. And we actually owned 2 of those businesses together and did 2 successful exits. And Bob's still one of my dearest friends today.
So how did things get started with you and with KnowledgeLake?
Bob and I had just sold a business, and we decided that we wanted to really get focused on the content management space, and we really wanted to be a software company. The prior company was a services company. So because I was a software developer, obviously that qualifies me to know how to build a software company, right? That's a joke.
Yeah. It's one of those, like, if you now had something to say to you back then,
yeah, right.
We could probably fill.
I wouldn't even have done it. So thank God I was stupid enough to go give it a try. We just started, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there with a lot of thoughts about, they feel like they have to have every little thing figured out all the way into their future, and if there's anything that they don't have figured out, they won't start. My encouragement is just start, just navigate through it, and just get ready to go to battle every day. Yep. And be smart and trust people you put around you to do good things, and ultimately, if you persevere, good things will happen.
And you were also, in Microsoft terms, Ron is a boomerang, what we would say.
Yes.
Because you sort of have done the Grover Cleveland thing, right? You've been at KnowledgeLake twice.
Bob and I got started in 1999, and we really found SharePoint in about 2003. And we had already had 2 products to market in the capture space. And one day, one of our lead developers came in and said, "Man, you really need to see what Microsoft's doing. There's this new version of this thing called SharePoint 2003 that just got released." And I downloaded and loaded it last night. And, it's not great, but it's a start. And I was really looking for something to kind of build around. And we needed a way to get to market that didn't involve us hiring an enormous amount of salespeople. So it was in 2003. I mean, it's really remarkable that Bob and I had the foresight to use the Microsoft ecosystem in a leverage marketing model. So, the idea was to make SharePoint better and to train the field salespeople at Microsoft how to actually sell our products, because Microsoft has technology, we have a solution.
Right.
And that sounds like I had it all figured out then, but I didn't. But we navigated our way through trial and error to that solution. And the Microsoft ecosystem is what really caused KnowledgeLake to kind of take off like a rocket.
I always think of SharePoint, as that sort of open source that you do pay for at some point.
Right.
But from a developer or a partner perspective, it's something that you see, it's got a lot of good plumbing. Some of the basics are there, maybe some more than basic. But you saw an opportunity to do, X on top of SharePoint. And obviously it's grown from there. I sort of had the question in the back of my mind that you already answered of how does each business build on top of each other that leads to what you're doing now?
Right.
But when you saw that, we'll get into very specifically what KnowledgeLake does, but that ingest, that, bringing content into SharePoint, what was the first thing you saw where it was like, okay, I see what they're doing, but we can do something on top of that?
Yeah, well, we obviously had been, the previous business before KnowledgeLake was actually a FileNet reselling business. And it was very, very regional in the St. Louis area. And because we had good background and good skills in that. I mean, we quickly rose to be one of their partners of the year. We had great staff, and we had a great level of experience behind us, and we brought all that experience and applied that to SharePoint. And it was really interesting time around 2003 and 4 because even my friends at Microsoft today, Mr. Teeper as an example, I remember explaining to him what we were going to do with SharePoint. We're gonna go beat IBM with it with the Founder product. And I remember seeing this worried look on his face, like, you're going to do what with what? You're going to break it. Please don't do that. And so,
it's interesting. I mean, if jumping into the last decade with SharePoint, in hindsight, it was a great choice because you hit a platform that was going to take off. But did the platform take off and pull partners along with it, or did the partner ecosystem give the impetus for the platform to take off in the first place?
Boy, chicken or the egg question, right? I don't really know the answer to that, but I do know that, it was such a great tool, and it was so ahead of its time for what it was, So I see SharePoint as a platform to build on, and we saw partners seeing the same thing. Partners were becoming really, really successful doing custom app dev and really building some really cool portal-type solutions. And, the KnowledgeLake product set was one that really enabled partners to go to market with a finished business solution, and they had to do less custom app dev and still make a higher margin on their project, and it just really took off. I mean, it was a great idea for the time.
It's interesting. Obviously, SharePoint has grown far beyond its roots as a on-premises product to being a cloud business, and your role has shifted.
Yes.
Like, what is your role like as CEO now?
Well, it's a lot different because we're, we currently just launched our new cloud platform, which is a whole new SaaS revenue model, which from a financial leadership perspective is an entirely different financial animal, which is really good after you've had it going for a while. But the conversion from perpetual to SaaS, there's this well-defined trough of revenue, and we're actively right in the middle of that right now. So my role has been trying to keep the wheels on the bus while we get through that conversion and try to really meet one-on-one really with still have hundreds of customers still with SharePoint on-prem, and to really kind of bring them forward to convince them that it's safe and it's okay.
So if I heard you correctly, you're the CEO of KnowledgeLake. Maybe that stands for Cloud and Conversion Executive Officer.
I get my hands dirty. We did this event last fall. We like to have fun at KnowledgeLake, so we put 6 of our executives in a Dodge minivan, and we did an 800-mile road trip around the Midwest, meeting with customers for 3 days. And we met with a lot of good customers. Some of them were mad, some of them weren't, some of them were happy. We drank a lot of beer with them and just had a really good time. But the really, really valuable thing in all that is listening to the people who use your software and taking the time as a CEO to sit down and if it needs to happen, you need to get yelled at because of a lack of a feature or something that doesn't work appropriately, and just sitting and listening. It's really valuable.
And it's impressive. The entirety of it is written still in BASIC, right?
Gee whiz BASIC. Yeah.
So let's get into some of the specifics. What does KnowledgeLake offer? We've talked about SharePoint being the platform. Obviously, in the cloud, there's more than SharePoint. But with the focus of just honing in, what is the KnowledgeLake value on top of that in a nutshell?
Yeah, it's a great question. And really, we haven't changed the core value proposition of the company as we move to the cloud. It's really that we're the exact same company with the exact same purpose we had before. We extend the SharePoint platform to handle transactional content management workloads. So we don't focus, we leave it to Microsoft, you guys, on, the SharePoint platform to handle authoring and collaboration. We really don't do anything. You guys do that really well. What we think we add is really the ability to capture and process transactional content that exists in these big companies. So, the big public sector, entities, big financial services, and everywhere in between. I mean, we have companies of all sizes and shapes find value in a very structured manner, bringing in lots of high-value content and processing that using KnowledgeLake platform tools, and then ultimately that resides in the SharePoint platform that content does at the end of the day. So that's the value we bring.
And if you start from the left side of the
Sure.
getting stuff in,
Yep.
what are we talking about? Are we talking physical documents, digital documents, one repository, 100? Where are things coming from?
We're a pure capture play in the capture market. So that means everything. So we started, this journey 20 years ago with, driving a scanner, which is still a really core component of our software. But we've watched the need to capture paper, to digitize papers, really kind of fallen off over the last few years. There's a lot more and more content being born digital. But, when you look at the big public sector entities out there, there's still a lot of paper out there. So we've made heavy investments still in capturing, digitizing paper. So we're really the only vendor that I'm aware of in the market that we drive the scanner at full rated speed right through the browser. Don't have to have any software in the desktop, which is pretty neat.
As we're recording this, AIM, an organization that Microsoft does an awful lot with our membership in, and great to have KnowledgeLake here. We were in a meeting earlier today, and they were talking, one of the customers was talking about stuff that's born digital should stay digital.
Yeah.
But so despite the trillions of Word docs in the world, that doesn't make enriching the metadata on them any easier.
Right. Yeah, good enough. And we've been working on a lot of technology. All the new capture stuff's all built on top of AI and ML. All new feature functions for classification and extraction of the tags. And we've even got some brand new bits that are shipping in October here that really do classification of electronic documents really, really well. So, automatically applying those tags on the text-based documents that, are Office file formats, that's shipping this month, as a matter of fact. It's really exciting.
From your seat, when you look out at where your customers are, where they're headed,
Yep.
where Microsoft is headed, what are you seeing evolving out there that customers really need, even if they don't know that they need it?
I think the basis of at least where we are is when you look at the world of transactional content management out there, you're looking at a lot of large organizations that really haven't been able to escape the bonds of technology that's really 25 years old. So it's very expensive. It's difficult to maintain. They have large investment in people to just take care of these platforms that are running inside, the data centers inside these companies. They want to move to the cloud. Trying to figure out how to get there is really difficult because in the transactional content management space, these are the high-value documents that actually run an organization. They're tied closely to revenue. So trying to get those old platforms turned off and get that content in the cloud, that's what they need. They will save enormous amounts of money getting this stuff to the cloud.
So, for our listeners on the Intrazone, some of us know what transactional content management is, but could you kind of walk the audience through that?
Transactional content management is different than collaborative content management. So, we trust Microsoft to build collaboration tools and that handle the authoring side of electronic content. That's your guys' job.
Yep.
We're about bringing in vast amounts of unstructured content via many sources, scanners, via email inboxes, via a lot of different ways. And any way something arrives, we can ingest it and process that through a workflow engine called Microsoft Flow. We love Flow. We also have our own RPA platform. So the new robotic process automation stack is ours. And then ultimately it lands in SharePoint Online. And we've got a whole suite of brand new search tools that make SharePoint Online be able to search millions and millions of pieces of content in a very structured way.
And so a lot of it is bringing it in an appropriate format that then gets deemed in the right way, whether that's metadata or deeming it a record, so there's some retention policy that applies. What is the use of the content? You mentioned search, and I think from what you've shared with us, it's not collaborative to change the document too much.
Not too much.
But it's to leverage it in what context?
Yeah, a million business applications, but the most common one that makes up about 40% of our customer base is simply processing invoices, accounts payable. Every horizontal need, every organization is to pay their bills. So scan the invoice or import it through an email inbox, invoices at mycompany.com. You classify that so we can automatically say that's an Acme company invoice. We know how to pull the metadata off, apply the metadata to the document, ship it off to SharePoint Online.
I think I last did a search for Wile E. Coyote as an author.
I knew you were
at Acme Company.
It's exactly where you should have taken
I just took us all off the cliff and then that cloud of dust. Anyway.
Since you're going to go there, it's time for me to inject
Sports reference on
obligatory sports reference. Condolences to the Cards.
Oh, I'm still mourning, man. Sorry. We're recording this. This is the day after the Cardinals just got knocked out of the NLCS last night, and it's been a bad day.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I looked up at the television. We were out at dinner, and was like, "Where are we in the pennant series?" And I see people with goggles on spraying champagne. I'm like, the Washington Senators, or whatever they call themselves now.
It wasn't the Cardinals, which is my team, right?
So if you were to then wrap that up, then, the what's the value to the customer?
Right.
We get where they use it, how they use it, but what they're really looking for and what KnowledgeLake offers is that value to customer is
streamlined processing. So it's really about taking a messy, manual, labor-intensive business process, which is, in its most rudimentary form is processing off paper, right? So digitizing that content, putting it through a structured electronic workflow, if you will, and then actually archiving that into a repository so that those documents don't get lost or misplaced. You can much easier to achieve compliance. There's a lot of regulatory standards that KnowledgeLake software can help achieve, regulatory compliance. And that's mostly done by you guys. You're the repository for us. So all of those things are the value that Microsoft adds for us.
It's interesting. We were talking to Jeff Teeper last year.
Right.
We asked him about some of the SharePoint origin stories. Where'd you come up with the name? So I'm going to ask you the same question. KnowledgeLake, where'd you get the name?
Yeah, that's a good question. I answer that being funny most times by saying it was the last .com that was available. There was some truth in that because we had a whole bunch of names on a list and nothing was available, even in '99. But when you really look at why we chose that, a lake is you look at the definition up. One of the definitions is a vast pool of water, right? So when you add the word knowledge to that, we're a vast pool. Our company manages vast pools of knowledge, and that's really the definition. When you look at our logo, I'll take you another step. Okay, it's got the logo is a picture of a person's head with a lake in the middle, like a brain. Okay, and don't overanalyze that; it's not that deep. But the real fact is, KnowledgeLake is a company with a real focus on people. We love people. Because people are who do the work. So we have a huge focus on valuing our employees and our customers. So we feel like if we do a good job taking care of our employees, the employees will take care of the customers, and everything else takes care of itself. So we never want to forget about people.
Yeah. We've been through, Chris and I, a couple naming processes. And
Right.
One way I think our audience can help understand the value that KnowledgeLake offers is through the eyes of another customer.
Yeah, right.
Could you walk us through some example of...
Yeah, maybe a recent one?
Yeah, a recent one would be great.
One that I've been actually working on personally, which that doesn't happen as much as I would like it to because I am kind of busy trying to run a business. But we've had one customer it's actually in the St. Louis area, which is where our headquarters are, and it's the large institution called Washington University in St. Louis. And I think most people know of that institution because that's where the presidential debates are held. Mm-hmm. And they have been a customer for the entire life of KnowledgeLake, so over 20 years now. And so one of the vice chancellors called me and said, "Man, we really need to get to the cloud. Can you give us a hand?" So I went down and met with her, and we mapped that out. And anyway, they've got over 5,000 users of KnowledgeLake software, which is ultimately also Microsoft SharePoint users. About 15 different workloads for different departments, and a massive amount of content and old SharePoint on-prem servers running everywhere. So they're really ready to get to the cloud. So we mapped it out and got that deal closed, and we're busy right now, as a matter of fact, in the middle of migration to the cloud. Very, very exciting. It does involve everything we do. Accounts payable is one of the first workloads that I'd mentioned before. It's one of the most popular workloads. But everything at the university around student admissions, the alumni records, all of the really high-value departments of the university, including they have a hospital, the School of Medicine. Mm-hmm. Really everything touches KnowledgeLake and touches Microsoft SharePoint. So they're a huge advocate of Microsoft and of KnowledgeLake.
And so to be successful, I imagine you need to integrate with financial systems, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So you're not just integrating to SharePoint, although we love that, but
Yes.
You're bringing that connection to other things.
We actually are, and using our new RPA platform, we're actually connecting to their brand new implementation of Workday.
Nice.
So they're implementing a big Workday system. It's a big multi-year project, and they really needed to hand off this implementation of the cloud move for all their unstructured content. They handed that off to us because we have a trusted relationship.
Can I ask maybe a newbie question for ingestion?
Sure.
And specific to this customer, when they look at, we've got a lot of content that we've had for a number of years, and we need to think it in terms of migrating it to the cloud.
Right.
That may just be a simple move and obviously list and label in the right way. But is there anything different from we have older content that we maybe don't think too much of to quantify and qualify? We just want to get it in the cloud and make it searchable versus new content with really new requirements for how they track and manage it?
Right. Well, typically when you're gonna convert to something new is your opportunity to kind of clean house. And these days, the storage mechanisms are so inexpensive that lately we've been recommending to customers just move it. Don't worry about sifting through it; it's too expensive, too much labor to try to do something with it. So we have this great partnership with this other content services partner program ISV called SkySync. So we actually license SkySync as a KnowledgeLake product in OEM fashion. So we're lifting and shifting all that millions and millions of pieces of content up to the cloud using SkySync, and it'll be done in rapid fashion. It's amazing how fast the thing goes.
Yeah, I know a little bit about SkySync, and I know that they scale really nicely, and certainly as an embedded experience,
Yep.
Again, through the migration scenario.
Yep.
Once it's in after migration,
Right.
Do they see it as then I close down on premises, or do you always see a longer tail of stuff?
There's a little bit of a longer tail, and I to be quite honest with you, all of us wish that longer tail didn't exist. But the really amazing thing about the tool that SharePoint is it does so many things, and they have fully implemented. They have implemented all the aspects of SharePoint throughout the entire university. So, we're handling the document workload. We're taking care of that, but they've got custom, portal applications and through just a lot of things that are going to have to be lifted up to the cloud, and those really aren't our spaces. So they have their staff working on moving a lot of that stuff to SPO.
Well, we'll take you as the tip of the spear, and
Right.
we'll make sure we'll follow up to get all their other stuff done.
Now, the good
on
news
documents.
is they use everything. They're a great advocate of Microsoft and of SharePoint.
It's great to see that you're delivering solutions for our customers. But you recently got a Top Workplaces of 2019 award.
Yeah,
from
thanks for
Post-Dispatch.
noticing. That's nice, Chris. Yeah, we and that's not something that, it's not something the leadership of a company can actually accomplish. We were nominated and then were voted on by our employees. So it's a secret ballot. Nobody can really know how people are voting. So it's a third party in the St. Louis area that actually does that. And, we work really hard, and it's something we really focus on, man. We really want our company to be a nice place to work. So I hope it's a reflection of the fact that we love to take care of our people and that they take care of us by voting for us in that competition. But yeah, it's actually our third year of accomplishing that. And I really feel like if we take care of our tribe, we call our company a tribe. If we take care of our tribe's going to take care of our customers, and that equation's always worked for us.
In your space, where do you want the puck to go? And things that you're excited about.
That's a sports reference.
Where do you
I didn't even prompt you.
I snuck that in. The goalie's got a lot of padding, but here comes Mark, Gretzky style.
And for the record, a championship sports record for a company in St. Louis.
True enough. Yeah, 11 times.
Yeah.
Those Cardinals. That's a great question, Mark. I tell you, we've spent our entire partnering life with Microsoft working around, I hate to call them limitations, but we've always been stretching the boundaries of what SharePoint's really kind of designed to do. And, governance for us has been something that's not even it's not a nice to have. I mean, if we don't put the guardrails up on what these companies do, man, they'll crash off the cliff in a fiery crash at the bottom. So we need, where the puck needs to go in my estimation is we need the repository aspect of SharePoint to really harden and get stronger. So things like scalability, The removal of the need for a thing called crawl time, that's got to go away. We got to have a massively scalable repository in the cloud that nobody has to deal with or administer anymore. I know those are all tall orders, but we're going to rely on you guys for that component of our solution is always going to be Microsoft. We're going to depend on you, and that's where I hope that we wind up heading together.
Challenge accepted.
So we're going to start wrapping things up with 3 questions for you.
Oh, boy. Okay.
First question, what is Microsoft 365?
Oh, boy. What is Microsoft? Well, I'll give you my definition because I probably would get the real one wrong. So for us, 365 is a platform to build KnowledgeLake products on. So we obviously use it internally for all of its other intended purposes, but most importantly for us, we build a whole transactional content management platform on top of it. So we love it and believe in it.
So if that's Microsoft 365, turning to something that's maybe a little bit more in your personal wheelhouse, what is the most recent book or movie that you've seen, and maybe a little bit of what you liked or didn't like about it?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I'm an avid reader. I love to read, but I tell you the one book in the past couple of years that really is kind of changing my life still. I mentioned before that we call our company, we call our team members, we call them our tribe, right? So there's a book out there called Tribal Leadership by Dave Logan. It's not a new book. I think it was written in about 2012. It's new to me because I hadn't read it yet. Mm-hmm. A good friend of mine promoted it to me, and I dug into that. And I'm sure like most business leaders out there, we all read a lot of leadership stuff. I probably easily read 100 leadership books, but I'd never heard this message. And it's really, really unique. It's basically a grading system of how to grade the culture of your company as the quality of your tribe and how you measure that and how you get better. And the interesting sort of byproduct of the message of the book is that people will work harder for a team that respects each other than they will work for themselves. So it's the same principle like Navy SEALs and same type thing. It's the principle that people will work harder to support their team than they'll work to preserve themselves. And it's a really something we've tried to implement the best we can at KnowledgeLake.
And so the last of our 3 questions is,
right.
How do you stay current on Microsoft's news?
Yeah, I don't even know if I do. I try my best, but I'm probably just like the rest of everybody in the world. I'm flooded with information.
We push it out in lots of different channels.
Right. And hey, the Content Services Partner Program's been a wealth of information for us. Appreciate you guys doing that. But, all of the online stuff, I follow everybody I can, including you guys, on Twitter and on LinkedIn. And all of those things push information to me about all the things I need to know, hopefully. So, I do my best to stay current.
Terrific.
Excellent. And I know just from looking at your feed before we met today, your company is very active in the community. You're at SharePoint Saturdays, SP Fests, Ignite booths, you're pretty involved, and it's great to hear that you're hearing what we're saying, but we're also, appreciative of you being in the community and obviously spreading the word and helping customers.
No, I appreciate that, Mark. And we have. I always tell our staff, if there was a textbook on how to be an ISV for Microsoft, I want that book to be written about us. So we're a pure play, and our whole goal in life is to cause every Microsoft field sales rep to make their quota. I wish that would happen, and that's our mission.
No, it's a tremendous partnership, and we really thank you for it. So where can our listeners go for more information about KnowledgeLake?
Well, obviously, KnowledgeLake.com, and they've got on KnowledgeLake.com, you'll find all kinds of interesting content. We've been recording all of our blogs in video format, which is a much more interesting way to consume things these days because nobody wants to take the time to read. So you can go to KnowledgeLake.com and find all kinds of interesting things about KnowledgeLake products, but probably more importantly, just current events and things that are going on inside of our world. So, and all the events that we're going to be at, we're at all your guys' stuff and more.
Well, thanks for coming in, Ron. Hope you can stick around a few more minutes for our next section.
Love it, Chris. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Mark.
You bet.
Up next on the Intrazone, frequently asked questions. Here on the partner edition of the Intrazone, we're going to continue the proud tradition of reviewing questions that we've all heard out in the community from customers, from Microsoft, and how we've responded to them. Ron, what's a question that you've been asked recently?
I particularly want to hone in on the question I've been getting very frequently, which is, what is RPA? And we recently did a survey of our customer base and learned that only 22% of our customers actually know the definition of the acronym RPA. So the answer to that question is robotic process automation. Okay, and it's actually part of the KnowledgeLake Cloud platform, and it's really an exciting kind of exploding new marketplace out there, and that there's all kinds of reading to be done. I won't bore everybody with that, but basically think about it like this: it's process automation, but using an electronic bot that actually takes over the keyboard on a computer. So you run this basically a little system tray app that actually runs a script, if you will, and emulates users doing data entry. So all the mundane data entry things, we call those swivel chair operations, where you're maybe cutting and pasting between two line of business systems. All of those things can now be automated using a bot, and that's really a very basic definition of robotic process automation.
No, that's great. There's definitely a lot of questions out there in the market about RPA. I've joked before, it seems that people show up at conferences and saying, my board of directors told me I need RPA to stay competitive, so I need to buy some. How is it? Is it by the pound? Right?
Exactly.
Mark.
Yeah. So the question I've been getting is, I published a video and a blog that was specifically sharing what can you do with SharePoint in Microsoft Teams. And a lot of it is around the collaborative space. But off of that, some of the questions that I've been getting, and this is the most recurring one, is, okay, I see how you can put content in there manually. Is there a way to automate things that show up? And a lot of times what they're asking for is either task-oriented, question and answer, but associated to a document or a site or a news article. And so a lot of what I then respond to, the answer is, of course, with Microsoft Flow, you can take anything that you automated from SharePoint to X, and if X is to a Teams chat or populating or, promoting some things, into a chat is pretty easy. Certainly the team is working on how can you add the content as a tab automatically or prescriptively. So there's a lot of exciting things that we're working on, but it's really that, can I automate things that show up in Teams? And the answer with Flow is absolutely. And the other answer is a lot more to come, because we know their API is maturing and there's a lot of things that you can do to take advantage of that. Chris?
One question I get asked a lot is, where can I learn more about partners in that content services partner program? In addition to coming on to the Intrazone, and in addition to the show notes where we'll have links to things that we've discussed today, we have a section on the Microsoft Tech community where we pull together information from KnowledgeLake and other content services partners, and you can learn more about them, how to get in touch with them, what their case studies have been, links to assets like videos and recordings like this. So that's probably the best place to go to learn more about members of our program.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's really a good thing you guys have done in pulling that program together, because I don't think people understand that, it's a tight community, right? So, thinking about my role in that, those relationships with those other companies that are in the program, those go beyond just superficial. I mean, we're making hooks into each other's software, things like that. So when you pick things that are on that list, they commonly work together.
Thanks for sharing your FAQs. Up next on the Intrazone Partner Edition, events. Unlike what you get in the Intrazone, today the events are being reviewed from our partner's perspective. So, Ron, what are 2 or 3 places that our audience might find KnowledgeLake out there in the community in the months to come?
Well, obviously, you can find all that information on KnowledgeLake.com, but I'm happy to share. We obviously are at all of the Microsoft-specific events. In addition, we've got SharePoint Fest Chicago coming up. I believe that's the first week or second week of December. Mm-hmm. And we always participate in all those. We got various SharePoint Saturdays, and you'll find all of that information about future events coming up on our website.
And you also have a weekly webinar series.
We do. Thanks for mentioning that. Every Wednesday, we actually run 2 different webinars. We run one for Microsoft folks who need to learn more about, influencing or recommending KnowledgeLake to their customers. Okay, so that's a specific event on Wednesday. There's also another one for customers. And then there's a third one for prospects. So we use those internally 3 different ways, but we invite everyone to stop and learn more about KnowledgeLake. It's what it is. It's a short session, which is basically the first part is we roll through a deck and really kind of explain the workloads that we solve and that we impact. And then the second part is purely a product demo, so you can actually see the products live and in action.
Nice. Being available is sometimes, a big hurdle just by nature of resources, time, people.
Right.
But the payoff is, you get fewer people coming to you with questions of, hey, I'm having a hard time finding about this or that. Or just, I'd like to talk with somebody. How hard can that be?
Sure.
Making that, kind of prominent and easy to access is commendable.
That's our hope.
Well, thanks, Ron.
Thank you to our guest, Ron Cameron of KnowledgeLake.
Check out our show page to links of all that we discussed today and more. Go to aka.ms/the Intrazone.
Send us, or Ron, I think in this case, your questions and feedback for the SharePoint engineering team and, of course, for the KnowledgeLake team. You can email us at the intrazone@microsoft.com or on Twitter @SharePoint, @mcashman, and @cmcnulty2000.
Tell all your friends and colleagues about the show and share the SharePoint love, along with the Microsoft 365 love. And please subscribe down at the Gateway Arch in St. Louis or wherever you happen to get your podcasts.
Thanks again for listening. We're your hosts, Mark Cashman and Chris McNulty. You've been listening to the Partner Edition of the Intrazone, a show about the Microsoft 365 Intelligent Internet plus partners.